Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at ubnradio.com.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. We are Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and we're so excited to welcome you today. And we have a really great subject to talk about, which we will get to in a second. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Debi Carlin Boyle, and I am certified as an integrative nutrition and health coach, a personal trainer, and a fitness instructor. And really, I try to help people find balance in their life with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. And today I'm just going to put in a little bit of information for you to join in on our show, because as always, we'd like you to be part of the conversation. So you can go stream live with us right now on our Facebook page, Del and Debbie Mind, Body, Soul. It's public. You can go on there, watch us, and chime in, make a comment, ask a question, or you can call us here directly on our call line at 323-284-7826. And call in any time and ask a question if you feel so compelled to do so. And right here to my left is the other half of our show, my beautiful co-host.
Thank you so much. Excuse me, I'm husky today. Hi, I'm Delia D. Jones, and I'm a certified transformational coach and a 3 principles practitioner. I help my clients to achieve a more peaceful, loving, and joy-filled life regardless of their external circumstances. So today, we have a really heartfelt show for today, and that is, it's a subject that most of us in Western culture are afraid to look at, never mind discuss, and that is the subject of death and the subsequent grief that those who love the people that have passed feel or are left with. So last week, many of us are still in shock, over the tragic passing of 2 iconic figures in pop culture, Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain. I know for me it was extremely hard, especially for Anthony Bourdain. Their passing also was harder to bear, I think, because they both left us by their own hands. And what if there was another way we could look at this? A more loving, gentle way to understand the nature of life and our inevitable death. And so today we welcome intuitive healing coach, therapist, Christina Bauer. And among the many healing therapies that Christina offers at a transformational center is a compassionate work with terminally ill patients and their families and their loved ones. So Christina uses her extraordinary gifts to assist those she works with to recognize their true nature, the true essence of who they truly are. Christina believes that whether we're living on or moving towards our own sacred transition, the process of reuniting with our soul is the most powerful gift that we can give ourselves in this lifetime. So welcome, Christina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah. We are so happy and honored to have you today, especially in light of the things that are happening throughout the world right now, and especially in this country, like Del said. But before we get into how you do what you do and what's going on right now, let's hear a little bit about you, if you don't mind. We just want to hear where you grew up and what brought you to where you sit today.
Thank you. I grew up in northern Washington State, and what really brought me to this, where I am today, is a lifetime journey, of course. But also, I was born with the ability to see people's pain. So when I came into this world, when I looked around at everybody that I was surrounded by, that's what I saw. I could see their suffering. I could see their wounds. I could see their misery.
You're saying at a very young age, or okay?
Yes.
And you remember this. You intuitively know
yeah.
that this was true. Okay. Wow.
Absolutely. And I didn't recognize that other people didn't see the same thing that I did. So there was a confusing aspect to that for me for a long time, because first of all, I couldn't understand why everybody appeared to be so miserable, because that's what I saw. I still had that childlike innocence, so I was able to be in my own childlike wonder and happiness when I wasn't around people. But when I was around people and I could see and feel what was going on for them, I naturally wanted to help them. And it wasn't until later in my adolescence that I actually recognized that, oh, not everybody sees these same things that I'm seeing.
I have a quick question here. Did you was your a household in which you grew up? Were you an only child, or did you have siblings?
I have a younger brother.
Yeah. And was there unhappiness in your household that you witnessed or felt?
There was. I don't think, greater unhappiness than any other household from what I could see. My parents were struggling young parents, and, that in and of itself has its own issues. But there wasn't any major things that we went through that were different from any other family.
Okay. So it wasn't an extremely dysfunctional childhood then. It was just that you were highly sensitive.
Exactly.
To everybody's feelings around you.
Yes.
And intuitive. So, okay. Wow.
And so at a very early age, from like the moment you could speak or from the moment that you could read, like how you were just know that you were intuitive enough to feel the pain of others, to feel it all around you.
Well, I didn't recognize that that's what was happening. It was just that was my reality. But I do remember my earliest memory is probably somewhere around 3 or 4 years old. I remember standing in the living room of our home at the time, and there were my family and extended family there. And I just remember the sensation of looking out and what I saw and being so confused and utterly in shock of how they could appear to be so trapped in this dark space that I could see when I could see the world was so beautiful. So I remember it from a very early age. My mom used to get really frustrated when I remember I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, because I would be at many of the adult neighbors' houses in our neighborhood rather than playing with the kids, and the neighbors would tell me their problems. And she would not understand how these adults could be dumping their problems on this young child. But in reality, I remember kind of learning how to open the subject for people without intimidating or prying,
And what age would you be at this age? I'm just trying to picture you.
6, 7, 8.
And they intuitively knew that, or they wouldn't have shared. So they knew that you could bring light to their darkness.
Well, they definitely were seeking it.
Yes, and they knew where to go.
And I had such an intense desire to want to help people because I could see what was going on.
Yes.
So it was just a natural unfolding that happened for me.
Yeah.
So from there, how long did you stay in Washington, and why did you leave? And how did it start to manifest itself that you had these powers, this gift? Yes.
I was in Washington until I was a young adult, but the real major wake up for me that helped me to understand, there were a couple of major events. One was when I was a child and I was seeing everything that was around me, I was able to tolerate it. It was okay because I still had my happiness and my joy. But as I moved into being a teenager, this world that I was living in became very ugly and very dark. As we come more into our minds and less into our natural presence. So as a teenager, I actually went through a very, very dark period and came to the decision that I really wanted to end my life. I was done. I didn't want to live with this sight anymore. It felt like a curse to me. It would never felt like a blessing at that point. And so I did. I attempted suicide, and through that experience, when I lost consciousness, I actually found my real consciousness for the first time.
Wow. Well, how so? So was it pills, or what did it was
Yes.
pills?
Yeah.
And so you're in your loss of consciousness is how you discovered what your purpose was?
To some extent. It was
how does
the
that-
beginning of it.
Yeah. Wow.
The major thing that happened for me was that I had believed that life was a certain way and my life was a certain way. But through this near-death experience, I was actually shown, well, first of all, I recognized that I was more than my body because I
Exactly.
could see
Yeah.
everything that was happening above the scene. So that recognition in and of itself was shocking for me. I was like, wow, there's more going on here than I realized. Which
What were you seeing? I'm just so curious. I mean, that's
like an
natural.
out of body experience.
Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
just-
What is that like? What were? I mean, could you see who found you, or
yes,
you could?
Yeah, I was young. I was only 15. So at
Oh
the
my
time, I
goodness.
didn't really totally understand it, but I've had the full experiences come back over time. But yes, I saw the person that found me. I saw the paramedics arrive. I saw myself in the ambulance with the paramedics working over me. And then from that point, I lost sight of the scene and was... I don't know exactly how to always take this into words because it's hard to formulate explanation for something that's really not conceptual.
Exactly, beyond, yeah.
But I was taken out of the recognition of that experience into a full, light, loving presence is the best way that I can explain it. And in that space, I was shown my life from birth until that point, being 15, to up to the suicide attempt.
Your whole life flashed before you, which is a saying that happens when you're near death,
Yes.
apparently.
Yes. But it was what happened in that time was that I was given the understanding that what I had thought my life was about literally had nothing to do with it. So that in and of itself was, wow, I thought my life was all about this track, but I was being shown that it had nothing to do with that, which gave me a very clear understanding that what I understood or believed was true was not. And that is really a large opening that happened.
And that's I mean, this is not uncommon at all. I've heard a lot of people talk about their spiritual awakenings do come at a near-death experience. But for that to happen at such a young age and for you to get it at that age, do you know what I mean?
Well, I got it sort of.
Yeah.
Because I got it while I was in the space. I definitely understood that. But I was also told or shown during that time that I had to come back to my life. And when I was in that space, it was fine because you don't feel anything in that space except for absolute contentment. So the words were there, the understanding was there, but there was no problem with that until the moment that I came back into my body in the hospital room with both of my parents there.
And what was that? I mean,
That was like going from complete
Bliss.
heaven
common,
to the worst
calmness,
situation probably ever. So, and I didn't have anybody I could speak to about these things. My family were not, we never talked about those things. I didn't know anybody who had lived or even would understand those kinds of things. So at first I really tried to hold on to it. But after a time, even in the hospital room when I came to, I kept looking for that feeling again, trying to find it, and I recognized that I was not going to be able to find it. And so it became almost excruciating to try to find it when I couldn't. So it just really kind of got buried over a period of time in my experience, and I moved forward in my life. And then in my early 20s, I had another just really profound experience that began opening all the doors for me of my consciousness and began showing me that experience, what it meant,
What was that profound experience? Can we share it?
Yeah. Well, I was going through trauma, of course. It seems like all of our great openings happening during our trauma,
of
right?
course.
And so I was going through a breakup. I was very young. I had been with this man for a few years.
And you're still in Washington at this time?
No. No, I moved from Washington to Southern Oregon when I was just after this time. So I was probably like 27 when I moved to Oregon, and then moved to LA about 7 years ago.
Okay.
So describe this. How this second opening happened. How did it manifest? How did you experience that?
So I was in a place of suffering, and somebody that I had met along the way had recommended, you really should just go get a massage. It would make you feel so much better. So she gave me the number of this woman, and I called her, and I started working with this woman. She started working with me, and it did help a lot. But this woman was like no other woman I had ever met before in my life. She was a Native American woman. She was completely empowered, which I had not experienced that kind of power in a woman ever up to that point. And she, in my working with her, she really was persistent with me that I too had this healing capacity that she did. She was a healer. And I, of course, did not really know what to do with that. I also was very accustomed to never believing anybody and questioning everything, because when I could see what was really going on for people inside of them, and that was not the face that they would show to the world or the words they would speak when they were sharing, I developed a real lack of trust for people and what they share.
Yeah.
So I was very weary with her, but she was persistent with me, and she ended up introducing me to a whole group of women, her friends and colleagues, and I ended up joining a women's circle at 22, I think I was.
And you are still in Washington when you're doing this?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Yeah.
And she was in her late 40s. All the women were in their late 40s to 50s.
And you were young.
And I was young. There was only myself and one of my friends that ended up joining with me. But working with this, just being involved with this group of women was life transforming for me.
Beautiful.
And because I didn't trust her words, it really prompted me to go inside and question what she was asking. And when she did, that's when things really began opening up for me. It's like the information just came flooding through, and I had an understanding that I couldn't deny because it was coming from within.
Was all that pent up that had been that you were holding on to since, basically since birth, and then, for that 7 years or so in between your suicide attempt and now, you were still probably all pent up until she helped you release, it sounds like.
Yes, it really just brought everything full circle.
Great.
And I was young,
That's
so
the universe
it was the beginning.
at work in its most profound way.
Absolutely.
It must have been, again, very hard, as you say, to have that experience and touch that bliss or heaven, as you say, and then to come back and not have anybody help you to access it again, because we can access this. We're spiritual beings having human experience, so we can have it while we're here on earth, but we need, especially when we're younger, we need to be surrounded by people and by mentors that can help us get there.
Yes,
So.
and even when we're older, I have people who come to me that are in their 60s, 70s, or even people who are in their 90s who are transitioning, and they have never come to know that they are a spiritual being living in a human body.
Yeah, which is a really great thing to help them discover before they pass.
Absolutely.
So all this started coming through in a positive way now, and so how were you able to use it to help yourself and help others, and in what way did you use it to help yourself and others? And then we'll get into
the different modalities
yes,
of what
exactly.
you do.
Yes. So working with the women, being part of the women's circle, that really brought out all of our natural gifts and this really safe environment to be able to explore that. So there was an enormous amount of healing that went on inside of me during that time. Then from that point, the woman that I had been introduced to, the Native American woman, really encouraged me to go to massage school, to possibly do psychology training, because she knew somehow that I was meant to be helping people in this realm. And eventually I came around to listening to her, and when I embarked on that journey, even more doors began opening up. So I started practicing with and working with people, and I worked with her and another one of her friends for a period of time. Her friend actually had cancer at the time, which in massage school they teach you never touch anybody who has cancer, or at least they did 20 years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it was a very no-no, because you can spread it through the body if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So, but they would have me touch them and guide me on how to move with them energetically to help clear things that were happening for them in their bodies. So that work in and of itself really deepened what it was within me that was ready to be released. You know, and it sounds kind of funny, but during that time I was living in on this beautiful property that I had moved into by myself that was on 40 acres, and there was old growth forest. And daily I would take my dogs out to these beautiful old trees, and I would spend a lot of time really deep in Washington State old growth forest. And I had some really amazing awakenings energetically in the forest during that time. There was one moment where I had literally just looked down at my hands, and I saw the presence or God or source being, whatever you want to call it, in my hands, and I couldn't even move. You know, it was just, so there were openings that happened over time that it was just a natural unfolding, basically, that took place.
And you're obviously talking about something much deeper than just regular massage. You're talking about body work and energy healing and things like that.
Well, that's, yes. I had, you know, I didn't have a lot of patience for the school training for that purpose, both massage and psychology, because my complaint to her was, you know, these people are living in their minds. This is a conceptual thing that does not apply to a energetic reality world. And she kept saying, yes, I know, but sometimes we have to jump through the hoops to get where we're going to do what we need to do. And so with her persistence, I made it through, basically. And honestly, you know, there's things that you learn along the way on the psychological realm, and also just safety things of touching people that you need to know. But literally, my training began when I started working with people.
Yeah.
So
connecting to them on the energetic level. What can we? I just want to make sure we do cover. So when let's just move on to if you do have a client that has cancer, and or any other basically life-threatening illness or terminal illness. Besides the energetic work that you do with them, how do you counsel them in while they are in their thoughts and in their fear? How do you counsel?
Well, that's where we start, because that's where they're living at the moment. And literally the thing that I end up working with everybody is fear. Fear is debilitating at that point for most people. And so I begin with speaking with them. We identify what's going on in their minds first and foremost. And so I work with them as we sit together, and we become aware and present with what is going through their mind at the time, so that they can gain a real life experience of how to do that, and then also what's happening in there. And that's enough to pretty much show them immediately that, oh, this is an insane world that obviously is not going to support me.
Oh, we have a call? Oh, we have a call.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you hold that?
Yeah,
thought?
yeah. Hello, caller. Are you there? Well, hi. Oop. Wait, we got to get you on there. Hold on. Hi,
yes.
caller. Thank you for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Well, I'm calling from Pennsylvania now.
Ah, welcome to our show.
And what's your name?
Thank you. Can you?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
It's, yeah, what's your... Sorry, what is your name first? We missed that.
My name is Kat.
Hi, Kat.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for calling in. Do you have a question or a comment for Christina?
Well, I just want to say that I am a client of Christina's, and I was told that she was a wonderful person and an amazing healer, and so I went to her after a bad relationship and after my daughter passed away. And Christina, I could cry even thinking about how powerful of a person Christina is. She's just so pure and open and strong. She didn't take on any of my stuff, but she was very clear, not only in her massage technique. She basically said, just follow my hand, stop your mind, and think wherever my hands are. Follow them in your mind, and we're going to wipe your past off of you. And that was only one thing, and we did. I think she transformed me within 9 months' time. And then, I lost a daughter 8 years ago to cystic fibrosis, and Christina was absolutely instrumental in helping me to be able to reconcile that death is not the end and not to be afraid of it, but that also that my daughter is urging me on, and Christina could, connect with my daughter's spirit in some way that I couldn't.
Yeah.
And just
How powerful is that, Kat? How amazing.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Wow.
It was so
Something,
wonderful.
Christina.
It was so empowering, uplifting, healing.
I'm so
That's
glad you got a
beautiful.
chance to work with
Yes.
her, and how amazing that you are
Yeah.
able to help people through this. Well, this just sort of
Absolutely.
says it all. Kat,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Yes,
sharing
thank
and
you for
helping a lot of
sharing.
people. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have to interject here because I just lost, as I mentioned before, I lost 3 family members in the space of 8 months. And when my mother passed, which was only a couple of months ago, it's so incredible. I feel her spirit in me more than, I always felt her with me, but so much stronger right now. And it really is. I can feel it. Just like she shared that her daughter's spirit and is with her and helping her live her life and guide her. I feel that about my mother completely. I have her picture by my bed, and she had this little whimsical smile on her face, and I look at it every day and I go, yeah, I know, Mum, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get out there.
So funny how they guide us. We have a who you might know, a good mutual friend, Ellen Shane, and they lost a daughter who was happened to be best friends with Dell's youngest son. And I know that through Emily's spirit, what Ellen's done with her life and what her family has done with in the name of Emily,
The Emily
is
Shane Foundation is incredible.
she has guided them all the way. And if you talk to Ellen, she'll tell you that it's true. And she has a home office where she does all her work, and right in front of her is a big portrait of her. It's a picture, actually, portrait size of her and Emily, and she looks at Emily, and Emily is like just working through her. You can see it. It's so it's so powerful when you walk in that room that everything that Ellen's doing in her name is guided through her. And people just don't know that or see that until there's an awakening that, like, someone like you can help them see it.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Thank you. That's a beautiful testimonial for
Yeah,
you. So
lovely.
let's get back to what we were talking about. And you were saying how you guide them first to now I'm listening to what Kat was saying, that so part of it is when you're actually doing the physical hands-on massage that you have them get out of the minds and get into the body and into the place where you're placing your hands. So
Yes,
that's part of it.
Yes, absolutely. Because most people, especially in our society, live in their heads all the time.
Absolutely.
And so I can speak with them about something that's experiential, but they cannot understand it conceptually because it's just not even literally possible.
Exactly.
So when they're on the table, I'm then able to guide them into their own pure presence. And then from that place, they know what it is that I'm speaking of. Then we can have conversations and work with different ways to accelerate that and become comfortable in that state. But until they actually have the real live experience, it's just all a thought.
Exactly, it's a concept, as you
Did
said.
Kat fly out here to work with you, to be with you, or was she here for a while? Or?
She was here for a while, yeah. She's
Okay.
just in Pennsylvania right now. But I do
okay.
have people that fly in, and I also have people who have flown me to other places to assist with transitions as well as just coping with the process.
So
Well-
so if we, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so that's working with people that
Yeah,
actually
that's
have
exactly where
you
I
know,
was going.
Yeah, a physical. They're the ones facing a terminal illness or debilitating condition. What about the when it is more of an emotional pain, as in grief, that the family members that are not moving on with their life, they're stuck in that place of this person is dead, they're gone, they don't exist anymore. How do you work with those people?
Much in the same way, first we have to get them out of their heads.
Yeah.
Our minds
Like you worked with Kat.
are debilitating, and they will keep us depressed forever. So practicing presence is one way, but also one of the most profound experiences that people are not able to deny is that sometimes when I'm working with people, and I don't plan this at all, this is not something I have any control over. It's just a matter of what comes through when I'm working with somebody, and I never know what that's going to be. But oftentimes the loved one that has left them, or apparently has left them, will come and have a message for them and want to communicate with them during the session. And when that happens, I don't know if the person has been living or dying. I just know that there's something that's wanting to come through, and as I let it come through, then generally there's a very large healing that happens, because only that person would know what it is that's being communicated through this loved one that has passed.
How does that happen? How does that manifest? Do you speak for them, or do they discover it within them and they can feel it coming through to them?
Both. Sometimes it comes through them, and sometimes I just hear it through me and will begin asking questions. Like sometimes somebody will be really wanting to communicate from the other side about another person, and so I'll say, does the name Claire mean anything to you? And that will be an opening for them. So when you have that kind of experience, your doubts fall away pretty fast. I don't know anything about their lives. I don't know the names of the people that have been in their families. And so there's a trust that happens not just with me and with the loved one that's passed, but also life itself. Life is supporting them at that moment while they're on the table. So there's an opening that happens for people that's beautiful, that has nothing to do with me. I just get out of the way.
No, absolutely.
It's interesting because you take this to a whole different level than just someone who would go see an intuitive or a psychic to help bring back their loved one, speak through. You work with them physically too. So there's all kinds of things happening to bring it out. It's very interesting. I'm very intrigued, actually.
I have a question, because I know, and I think I was reading in your website, but I know that when I work with people, some people come to me and, I have a master's in spiritual psychology, but some people come for coaching that absolutely do not believe in any type of spiritual world. They're agnostic or atheist. How, when you have a client like that, how do you... I get around it through science. I talk about metaphysical, undeniable, the intelligence behind life. So how do you deal with somebody that
a
really...
skeptic.
Yeah, that just does not believe that there's anything beyond this lifetime?
That happens a lot, actually. It's really the experience that guides them to knowing the truth. I don't work towards trying to convince anyone of anything. And I never know what's going to come through. I also don't get caught up in the conceptualization or the words around religion or spirituality. So there's form and there's our formlessness.
Exactly.
And science proves a lot of these things. So I will talk about those things. I mean, the most blatant example that I use with people is that, we're breathing air all day long, and it literally sustains our life, right? We can't live without it, and yet it's invisible. We can't see it, but we never doubt that it's there. It keeps us alive.
It's life.
So that begins to open a door, and then we start talking about the mind, and we actually go in and try to find the mind and the body. Where am I? Because we as a human existence at this time as a whole are living in a world of mind identification. We actually believe that we are our mind, that our personality is who we are, and that is the illusion that is really moving through our culture right now and waking us up, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But that once we identify the mind and we create some space between it and the true essence of ourselves, then it becomes clear for people on their own. There's no convincing that needs to happen.
You have, like I was saying, that like reclaiming their power within their mind for peace. And that's what you're talking about, right? That process of finding their mind and being able to take control and have power within themselves to make peace.
Absolutely. And that happens in and of itself. When we make contact with our true self, it does the work. They don't have to do a thing. It's just we're then embodied in the truth of that which we are, which is confident, which is certain, which is love and peace and contentment. So there are no questions in that place. There is no duality anymore. We are whole.
Exactly.
It's so potent to work with people that are going through terminal illness to understand that, because it's just...
Yeah, because a lot of people can have sort of, that some sort of a sense of that, but when they're faced with their mortality, then the fear comes in, and then anger too, which it may deny that the existence of anything beyond the physical realm.
Yes, absolutely. And a betrayal. A lot of people will feel betrayed by life.
And if they do pass and feel that way, is that I know this is sort of a off the subject. Well, it's not off the subject, but is the person able to still come back and communicate with their loved ones if they don't have peace with themselves and gone through this sort of process before they pass? Are they still capable if they die sort of angry and fearful? Or does that matter? Does it come into play on whether or not they can come back and, give guidance and love to those to loved ones? I know this is so beyond, but
those are all
human
concepts.
I'm just wondering.
Exactly.
So, I'm
once
just
you're
wondering.
gone, you're going to meet that place that you were talking about earlier, that bliss. So any of those concepts are left behind with the body.
Absolutely.
I would say
It's true. It's true. So there is no...
Okay, so it just...
There is no right or wrong or understanding or not understanding after you've... when we leave, thank goodness, we don't take our minds with us.
Exactly. Or our personalities.
There's the answer I think I wanted to hear. Okay, good.
So I want to talk a little bit about, I know that you have a book coming out, so let's talk about that book and how long it's been in the process and what it covers. That would be wonderful.
Yes. You were talking about that power within you had just mentioned, and that's what the book is really focusing on. The title is The Power of Our Unshakable Presence. And that unshakable presence is what we come into contact with when we meet the truth of ourselves.
Okay.
So the book in and of itself, I tried to keep it as simple as possible because I work with so many people, and I always like to refer reading so that people are able to keep their minds in a positive place when they're not in my office. And oftentimes it's difficult to find reading that people can understand and stay with. So I tried to keep the book very simple as far as just introducing some basic practices that help us to come into full contact with the truth of our being. And people have been telling me for more than a decade that I should be writing books, and I've been so busy working with people I haven't had the opportunity. But back in November of last year, I had a man that approached me who is founding this new television platform called Transformation TV. And he was interested in the work that he saw that I was doing and wanted to know if I would be willing to be a part of this platform. meaning I would have my own television show, and they were making a movie, which I just got back from at the end of April, filming in Switzerland. And part of that was part of my work with him, as we were talking about the TV show and what it is that we'll be sharing. He's like, you really need to get this in a book. And I said, I know. And we kind of went over it for a period of time. And then finally he's like, can you just do this like within the next 6 weeks, and I'll help you with the whole process as far as publishing it and getting out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had just gotten back from Switzerland, which was a major ordeal, filming for the movie that's coming out next year. And my schedule's full. I work with people all of the time. But I went ahead and agreed to it. I was like, you know what? This is being asked of me, and that's what I do. I show up with whatever's being asked of me at the time, and this was being asked of me. So I just trusted that it would come through and it would happen, and it did. It was a very intense month of May.
Wow.
Wow, you really went for it. And it's coming out really soon. What's your date that it's supposed to launch?
The beginning of July. I don't have an exact date
soon.
yet,
That's
but yes.
quick.
Now, most
Good.
people take
Over years.
couple of years
Oh,
to write a
like in
book.
2009, I had this thought about writing the book, and now it's coming out 10 years later. So this is pretty amazing that you knew and you got through it and did it so quickly. That's great.
It's because you can get out of your mind and just into your heart.
Just good, and
it
was
flows.
all there, to come out.
Yeah,
So
it really came
That's
through.
right. So tell us about the experience of of shooting the movie in Switzerland. And what is it about?
and is it documentary style? I'm curious.
It is more documentary style. I haven't actually seen the clippings of it yet. I will this next week. But yes, there were 25 of us transformational leaders from all over the world that met in Switzerland to be a part of this filming for this movie that's coming out. And
what is the name of the movie? Does
I,
it have a working title?
I
They have a
believe
working
it's
title.
going to be called The Transformation Movie. And it's really about helping people as an ally. The movie is an ally for people to learn skills of how they too can also transform their lives, because right now especially we're going through such intense times, and people are looking for help
Big time.
on a mass level like never before. And so the intention of this movie is to be able to reach these people in a way that they may not have access to in other places. And this is also the same intention of the new television platform, because people are bombarded today on TV with so many different things, and most of it is not great.
So is this internet TV or a cable?
It's internet TV. I don't have all the logistics of it yet. It's a new platform that's starting, but it's very exciting. The teachers that I've met that are going to be hosting on it, and also just the intention. It's really about giving to the world and helping to meet the need at this time.
Yeah,
Sounds
which is
beautiful.
great, because spread the love is what I got. Is really the bottom line.
Absolutely.
That's what creates a more peaceful existence.
Yes.
And you also you do workshops and intensives.
Yes, describe what those are.
So we're curious what those are, so we can tell our audience, and if they want to get involved in a more global way with you, that they can.
Thank you. Yes, I work with people individually in my office, and then I've also found that working together with people in groups can be very powerful, because as we share as a whole, there's a much greater energy that comes about that carries all of us through that transformation. So I do work with groups, usually for weekend seminars, and I've also just recently started working with people intensively, one-on-one or in groups of just one or two, because what happens is, especially in this crazy Los Angeles environment, is that people come in and they have this great transformation that takes place, and then they go back out into their lives, which for most people is pretty chaotic. There's
Go back to the old habits.
exactly
Yeah.
the office is sanctuary. They come regularly, and then they go out the door, and the world is bombarding them. So the intensives that I've been doing so far, which seem to be working really well, are 3-day intensives or 5-day intensives. And I work with people the entire time, one-on-one or one-on-two. And we work with present moment awareness. We work with meditation. We identify the stories that are happening and clear the body emotionally. You know, you had mentioned how I work with people physically. And what I find is that it is absolutely essential to work with people physically, because we can make peace with things in our minds, and we can change our thoughts, and we can heal our emotions, but we're still carrying all of that in our physical bodies.
Cellular memory.
Exactly. And so the next time anything happens, it triggers the response.
Re-traumatizes. Yeah.
Yes.
Post-traumatic stress disorder in the body, not necessarily in the mind.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So in the intensives, we work on that level as well. And it's really just about giving people the time, care, and consistency that they need in order to really move through, so that they can begin to walk with a foundation. You know, we think that we have a foundation inside of us that keeps us secure. And then when a tragedy or some great thing happens, we recognize we have no way to deal with it.
Yeah, everything crumbles. We just feel like we've crumbled.
Right. Our minds like to believe that we have this foundation in place, but that is really an illusion. And so we work with actually not creating, but reconnecting.
I was just going to say, because the foundation really does exist, except that our minds take us away from it, from that knowing, because we get caught up in our thinking. And it's reintroducing, it's taking somebody back into what we all inherently have within us. It's our birthright, our innate well-being.
Yes, making contact with it within.
It's amazing that you can do this, because you usually hear about these kinds of things in one way or another, but bringing the physical and the mind together is really I just think it should all come together, and I don't know many people that do what you do. It's very unique. And it's
also
great you have a platform for that.
Yeah, and also the intensives, because I think so much of classic sort of therapy or body work or anything is like, an hour. And I just don't think it's ever enough.
It's not.
It just really isn't. Not. You really want to go deep and
especially if somebody's really going through a traumatic loss. That's a 24-hour grieving that happens. It's not, there's no relief from that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people really need that in order to be able to move through.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't see how anybody couldn't benefit from that if they're going through something tragic.
No, exactly.
And you do quite a bit of other things too, like in terms of in your practice. Will you list all the things that you do for people?
Goodness.
Yeah, just so I think our audience could know, and then we'll guide them to your website.
And
as
a great
well,
one is just so the people that look on your website and go, "What is that? What is a midwife of the soul?"
Yeah, which is really I love that term.
Exactly,
Yeah.
give us a little definition of what that is.
Yes, so that actually was given to me. I didn't choose it for myself, but that is what I do. A midwife gives birth to people who are coming into this world. And when I'm working with somebody, we're really recognizing the truth of their being, which it's already there, it's already alive, but making contact with it really is like a resurrection. It really does revitalize and revive our life. In fact, in most cases, we recognize that we haven't been living at all our entire lives, and now we actually know what life is. So that term, midwife of the soul, is basically just, bringing people into contact with their soul.
Yeah, rebirth.
I like it. I
Beautiful.
like that. You call it like a compassionate presence, right? Like you just giving people that idea that they are not idea, but the reality of who they are and what their presence means to them.
Yes, and what's so powerful about that is that our presence does the work for us. So all I have to do is help guide them there, and then it begins to speak through them. It begins to have the synchronicities in their life. It begins to show them the truth of their being. It's amazing.
No, absolutely. Because you could say anything, as you say, you can't. So unless they're getting it within themselves, unless they're knowing and feeling it and hearing it from within themselves, it's you can't tell them.
Yeah, you can't. You
No.
can't force anything on somebody who
No.
doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
So
Or doesn't
all the-
experience it for themselves. Really.
Yes,
That's
because
really,
believing's not enough.
Yeah.
You really
Yeah.
have to experience it.
Exactly.
yeah.
So all the things that you do that are on your website, and then if we can share your website and some final thoughts in our next few minutes, that would be great.
Thank you. Yes, I have to think about all the things
I
that I,
know.
do. I don't
When you
really
go, you
think
have all
about what
these
I
little-
do.
Yeah.
I know you do breath work.
Mhm.
And
I do.
Meditation, guidance,
Yes.
massage.
Trauma release therapy, lymphatic drainage, especially with cancer patients, coaching, of course.
Life coaching.
You know, when somebody calls me, they'll usually call because they were referred or because they found my website, and they'll say, you know, I'm interested in this. And I'll say, well, that's great. Why don't you come in and we'll see where you are. And then as I'm sitting with somebody, we kind of work together, and I work intuitively, and it just becomes evident what would be the best way
Approach.
to work with them at that given time. And and sometimes this can drive people crazy a little bit, because they're like, okay, next time when I come, we're going to do the breath work. But it's like, you know, next time when they come, we work with what's showing up in the moment. And I don't always know what that's going to be, and I don't always know what the best modality is to help serve that.
That's what makes you so unique, is that you can manifest, you can bring that out. And
Well, it comes through.
yeah, I love it. Love it.
Okay.
And how, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I was just going to say, how do people reach you?
Yeah.
So they can reach me through my website, www.christinabauer.com. I also have another website that's more geared toward death and dying and illness, which is christinalifepassages.com. And they can reach me by my email, which is info@christinabauer.com. And they can call me at 310-753-6642.
Ooh, lovely.
Wonderful,
And
yeah.
and your offices, do you have offices in Pacific Palisades here in Los
I have
Angeles?
an
You do.
office in Pacific Palisades, and I do most all my work out of there, although with cancer patients, I do oftentimes go to their homes because traveling is not always available.
Right, absolutely.
Now, final
Words. Yeah, we were going to say it at the same time. So we'd like to ask our guests to give a final little tidbit, a thought that you would like to leave our audience with.
That would be the truth that each and every one of us, no matter how disconnected it seems that we are at any given moment, how much we're suffering or how much we think we know the truth of our life, we all, every single person on this planet, has the capacity to find the truth of their being within their own self.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
Thank you
Just
so
lovely.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we were introduced through a mutual friend, and boy, am I really happy that we were.
Thank you. Bless
Thank
you.
you,
Wonderful.
Christina.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for being on our show. And we want to thank our audience for joining us today. As always, you can go to our Facebook page and keep the conversation going.
And we will see
Yes.
you next week at the same time, 1 o'clock.
Yes, you will. Down
Pacific
Debbie's
time.
Mind, Body, Soul. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.